He's Charlie Ebersol. He's one of the co-founders of the new Spring Football League.
Charlie, your dad, Dick Ebersol, launched the XFL with Vince McMahon back in 2001. That league only lasted a year. So, I mean, did you look at that to study what you might do here?
One of the things we looked at was what had really worked in that area. Because football is the only sport in the world that just ends. And the USFL drew huge crowds. The XFL drew huge crowds in 2001. So what we looked at was, okay, what worked about that and what didn't? The number one thing that didn't work was quality football. You got to put quality football. Football has to be the focus.
For some of you, this is a brand new start. For some of you, this is a continuation of the dream. For some of you, it might be a turning point to move on from the game. And I know that's not easy. We start our evaluation right now. We evaluate not only your athletic ability and your fundamental ability at your positions, we evaluate how you handle yourself. Are you professional? Do you stay focused? Because at the pro level, you gotta have the whole package. I think you're gonna sense a difference in the culture for those of you that make it. And some of you will make it.
You got to have guys that people are going to tune in to see.
There are millions of people who exclusively watch football, and then they stop watching professional sports because it goes off the air. So I'm just going to give the people what they want. I'm just going to give it to them in the highest quality by putting real football experts on the field.
A lot of things to work on, so what I suggest that y'all do, when y'all leave here, go put some more work in. But if you want to get better at it, you got to work at it. It ain't easy, man. Everything about this game is hard work. Hard work on three. 1, 2, 3. Hard work.
You watch the AAF.
No.
You're not interested?
Have no interest. It sounds very pie in the sky. And it reeks of you weren't good enough to make the NFL.
We're an alliance, all together. The fans, the players, the coaches, the general managers. We see this as a big team. Understood?
Sir.
All right.
I remember walking off the field 18 years ago with my dad from the last XFL game, knowing that it was over, knowing that they were shutting it down, and thinking there is a lot left undone here. There's an opportunity to do something really great here, and we've missed that shot. We've missed that opportunity here.
Hey, alliance on 3. 1, 2, 3. Alliance.
Do I get nervous? Yeah. Every single person who has done this before me has failed. Spectacularly.
Every other sport has multiple leagues. You want to play basketball? You can play basketball in multiple leagues in the US, let alone all over the world.
You know, football is one of those things, that sport where you risk everything.
I went to journalists, I went to executives, I went to coaches and players, people at the NCAA, people at the NFL, and started asking a question. Why not? And they came back with one really basic answer. In the last quarter century, nobody has put real football by real football people on a field in the offseason.
It was incredibly important to us that football be the center focus of our product. We had to put something out that was not only quality football, but lived up to the 21st century.
So where do we start? You gotta start with the biggest and best experts in the world. You start with someone who won a Super Bowl, and you start with someone who 2 years ago was inducted into the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame.
The idea of working with someone like Bill Polian is extraordinary.
Well, we're ready to go, and I'm anxious to see real football players playing football. It's been a while.
There's a brand ethos there in that man that is excellence and expertise that really is unrivaled in professional football.
When you go through all the organizational issues that you have to do with a startup football league, it's easy to forget that what it's really about is the players and coaches.
Hey, you want to sneak this one in? Huh? You know how to sneak, don't you? Yeah.
Just have him wedge it?
But, yeah,
right?
buddy right over the wedge, quarterback sneak. Yeah, sneak that thing in there.
10. Set up.
Like you said, he'll step back very short, and Austin Appleby in for the touchdown.
We were saying to ourselves, wow, got a lot of talent here. And at the same time, wow, we got a lot of teaching to do. We've gotten a lot of work in, and the players have committed themselves and done a great job with the amount of time. Expect a solid team. Expect a team that's going to play fast, play smart, going to play physical. We're going to do everything that we can as a staff and as a team to win football games.
Got a call from Charlie Ebersol, and I had met Charlie through his dad, Dick Ebersol, way back in the old XFL days. I know he put together that documentary that was on the XFL, and I talked to him then again about that, and told me he had an idea.
When ESPN came to me and asked me to do the 30 for 30 about the XFL, and I started doing the research and I started getting into the paperwork and really reading about what had worked and what had not worked, a couple of things were abundantly clear. There is a real desire and appetite for good spring football to exist, and nobody had ever actually put good football on the field. And then I interviewed Tom Veet late March, early April of 2016, and during the interview, he kept coming back to, if only we'd done this, if only we'd done that. And afterwards, I pulled him aside and was like, if you were going to do this again, how would you do it?
We were just talking about it, and we at that point, we chuckled about the fact is you know, could we do it again? And even in the documentary, Dick talks about, you know, could you do it again?
So we ended up spending about, I don't know, 6 or 8 hours on the phone over the next couple of weeks talking about what you'd do differently. How would you build the model? What would the teams need to look like from a business perspective, assuming you could put good football on the field?
Look, we can identify why this failed every other time, without a doubt.
And we talked to a lot of people, and we talked to a lot of people about a lot of different ideas.
We brought in J.K. McKay. Him and I had, through the years, had always called each other back and forth. Hey, did you hear from this guy? He wants to start a league. Yeah, it's just...
So it was interesting. When I heard it was Charlie involved, I thought, let's take a look at this, see what it's about.
What became abundantly clear is everything came down to the football. You had to have great football. And so I called my dad and I said, if I was going to do this, who do you think I would need to talk to? And he said, you need to go to Bill Polian and see if he thinks this is a good idea. And if he thinks it's a good idea, I'll help you talk to the rest of the people you need to talk to. So I called Bill and we set it up, and I drive down to his place and we have breakfast.
We were both on Cape Cod, so it was easy to get together. We got together and had breakfast in a diner and ended up talking for about 5 hours.
And I left that breakfast and I called my father and said, so you said if Bill thought it was a good idea, you'd help me.
For years, I have been saying and echoing the thoughts of my fellow general managers and coaches in the NFL that we need a spring league. We need a place to develop players. We need a place to develop young coaches. We badly need a place to develop officials. And so when the opportunity came, I said, okay, I'll put my efforts where my mouth is and see if we can't get this going.
I said, well, Bill says he wants to be my co-founder and wants to be the commissioner of the league. Is that enough that you'll get on board now? And my dad joined the board that day.
When he got Polian, when he talked to Polian, was a big moment.
I read everything. I listen to whatever it is that goes on. And I heard something about this entity called the Alliance. And I heard Bill Polian, I'm a Hall of Famer and he's a Hall of Famer.
Tom Veet was my first employee, officially. Bill was my co-founder.
The biggest single thing is it's got to be quality football.
What should it look like? And if we did, how many teams should it, where should they be? And who should the coaches be? And who should the players be? How much should we pay the player? There's a lot that goes into it.
Lamar Hunt, who formed the American Football League, he started a league, created jobs. And because he created jobs, that created an opportunity. I look back at Lamar, and I think about the number of young men who were able to have opportunity in their lives because of it. So here you have young men who play. So this creates jobs, and this creates opportunity.
Early on, it's a secret. Only a handful of people know what we're doing. So Bill and I sneak into CBS at like 8 o'clock in the morning in the freight elevator, and we go up and we have this meeting, and we're all in this room and we're laying out our whole business plan. And at this point, it's, you know, we've got these investors, we have these coaches, this is what the stadiums look like, and these guys are like, how much of this is real? We walked out of the building and I went across town to have lunch, and before I got to the restaurant, CBS had already made their full offer to make the deal. In those 16 blocks, we went from being a bar napkin to a football league. We came on this morning for two reasons. One, obviously CBS being our partner, we wanted to do this here. We're gonna start rolling our cities out this week. What I've always found interesting about the alternative football leagues is that they've always focused on big media markets. They wanted to get that big media deal, and so they went to New York and LA and Chicago and, you know, the obvious markets. So two of the things I was looking at was, what am I competing with in the marketplace? And how is football viewed in the market that we're looking at?
We had a list. One of the early things Charlie and I talked about, he says, where would you go?
We wanted to announce today here that our first city will be Orlando.
Got in touch with actually Rick Neuheisel and then J.K. McKay, and they were telling me about this new spring football league called the Alliance of American Football. Asked if I'd be interested. I said, if I can have Orlando, count me in.
I said, how quickly are you willing to get on a plane and fly out and do this? He said, I can be in New York next week. I said, great. And I hung up and called Tom Beaton and said, how close are you to the deal in Orlando? He said, we just signed it. It's like, great, I got a coach, let's go announce it.
There he is.
Head ball coach.
Head ball coach.
I've never seen him without a visor. I'm shocked. Oh, there we go.
You go to cities that people want football.
We look at cities like Atlanta as the bellwether of what we can expect.
The Arizona Hotshots of the Alliance of American Football League begin to play next year.
I'm very excited to announce Salt Lake City as our next partner city.
Super excited to be here in Tennessee to officially welcome Memphis into the Alliance of American Football.
Birmingham has formed a new alliance.
San Antonio will be home to a new professional football team next spring, not from the NFL, but the AAF.
San Diego has been extraordinary in helping bring us here today. Mike Martz, Mike Singletary, Phil Savage, and Rick Neuheisel, and Billy Devaney, all these guys were signed up to do something. Once that happened, once the ball started rolling, then we're getting calls from Andy Reid saying, you gotta call Michael Vick, he's gonna be great.
You take a lot of people with a lot of good NFL experience, you put them together, you accelerate what it is you're doing.
Jeff Fisher, and I am the Director of Football Strategy. That was Charlie's title for me. I didn't have any say in it, but I gladly accept it. We've eliminated the kickoffs, so we're going to place the ball on the 25-yard line and play from that standpoint. They're also going to say, well, where's the extra point? Well, we're going to give every team a chance to score 2 points on the extra point. We're not kicking the PAT. We're going to go for 2 after every touchdown. You know, beyond that, they're going to say, what happens if you want to try an onside kick? Well, we don't have that. We're going to have an onside conversion. There's 2 play clocks, one's 25, one's 40, and ours is 35 instead of 40. Beyond that, there's really not a lot of difference, you know, not a lot of commercial breaks, and, you know, the ability to access the information on your device is going to be pretty cool as we move forward.
I think employee number 5 was Eric Schwartz, who is my head of technology.
There are these guys, and they want to do something like fantasy, but way more interactive. It's Charlie Ebersol and Bill Polian. I'm like, okay, if it's those guys, I'm interested.
We interviewed dozens and dozens of people, anyone who had touched sports, and all of them were like, basically pitching me versions of fantasy. Like, oh, well, we'll make fantasy money related, or we'll make fantasy, whatever. And Eric walked in.
And Charlie's describing kind of in high-level terms what he wants to do. And I say, hang on a second. I reach into my bag, I pull out my iPad.
And he had already he'd been working on it for 5 years. He built a prototype of what he would like to have happen.
Taken the video from the AFC title game that had happened the week before, and I had built kind of a play-by-play prediction game. Are they gonna, run middle? Are they gonna pass deep right? And these were all coming up with odds on a play-by-play basis. And I'm like, you mean something like this? And he said, yeah, kind of exactly like that.
And he said to me, the only problem with this is it can't happen because you can't control everything.
The place where you run into is that in an organization that has been going on as long as the NFL and has so many legacy contracts and so many legacy arrangements, that's going to make you risk adverse.
And I said, if I was a single entity and all the players were in on it, they were making money off of it, so they were invested in it, and I controlled the broadcast, and I controlled the production, and I controlled the football, could you make this work? And he said, well, yeah, if you could do all those things, you could, but the NFL is never going to let that happen. I said, great. I'm starting a new football league. I'm not just starting a technology company. And his eyes got real wide.
When you have that kind of control, you can try anything. And that was the thing that was so appealing.
I'm not a tech guy. I say my function over the last few weeks has just kind of been that, I guess, that conduit between technology and football. There's a chip in the football, and there's players' shoulder pads are chipped, and we know how far they are running and how fast they're running, and whether they made the tackle with their right arm or left arm, or whether the left guard got beat inside or outside and gave up a sack, so you have all these predictive analytics that go into it to enhance fan understanding of the game and of the back, and what's the probability that you might get the ball here on 3rd and 3.
There's really kind of this joint partnership between the broadcast team and the digital team in a way that I don't think I've ever really seen before. We can start to tie the digital side and the broadcast side together and tell the story of a football game in a new way by marrying this data that we're presenting in real time into the television broadcast and bringing it into the mobile and the web application. The first consumer of the data we've already talked about a little bit is this real-time fantasy app where you can actually see a real-time live animation of the players moving around the field. We're also able to anonymize the data and feed it to the medical partners so they can do longitudinal studies. We can feed it to the training staff so they can see how much workload that the players are getting over the course of a week. We could also start to feed it into the officiating system. I'm going to have hundreds of millions of data points of how players move around the field in a real football game. When I take that data set and I start to process that data set, I don't actually know what we're going to find in that yet.
More football to be played. Last month, a new spring league called the Alliance of American Football was announced. Its inaugural season kicks off February 9th, 2019, a week after the Super Bowl.
Teams in 8 different cities will play a 10-game season.
Tell me how you came up with the name of this spring football league.
Ultimately, what we focused on was this alliance and aligning players, fans, and football.
Is this in competition or in conjunction with the NFL?
We see it as complementary.
Charlie Ebersol, the CEO, Heinz Ward, the head of football. It's the Alliance. It's 10 weeks. It kicks off next week.
We're thrilled. There's nothing like being in partnership with the NFL. NFL Network's in prime time on Saturday and Sunday nights, CBS in the afternoons on Sunday.
The head of football operations for the AAF is J.K. McKay. J.K., good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
So you know rogue football leagues, right?
I do. I've been around a couple of them over the years.
What do you learn, derive from that you can bring to this experience?
For this league, one thing that is important for the success of a spring football league is, first and foremost, the quality of play. We've got to put a good product on the field for our fans. I think there are enough fans that want to watch football that time of year and don't want to stop watching football as soon as the Super Bowl is over. The one thing that's always frustrated me is there's a fine line between the guys that make it and don't, and a lot of times the difference is they just never got an opportunity to play. Sometimes I think you'll see guys in our league that all of a sudden get a chance to actually play, and I think there'll be some eyes open and say, wow, that guy's better than I thought he was.
We talk about being a league of opportunity. We talk about being a league of second chances. But that's really not even scratching the surface about what it is. So this is a league about defining what it is to stand up over and over and over again and believe in yourself and believe in the person next to you.
What's important now, as you begin your career in the Alliance of American Football, is symbolized by the following letters: F-O-F. Focus on football. Don't worry about the bright lights. Don't worry about what happens tomorrow. Don't worry about who's ahead of you or behind you on the depth chart. Focus on your job and making yourself better on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, every single day. And the rest, believe me, gentlemen, will take care of itself.
Win on three. Here we go.
Come on, let's do this, boy.
1, 2, 3. Win.